Hey everybody, I'm Sarah, the Real Simple Mama, and this is 5 wet birds. So this video actually, don't tell the chickens, but it's not necessarily about the chickens, it's about the herbs and the plants that I've got in my little chicken yard, why I picked them, kind of the process on planting them, why I decided to do it, all of that good stuff. I apologize, I recorded this intro video once and deleted it because I'm a moron, and now it's raining and I wanted to upload this tonight, so please forgive the random raindrops and the soggy birds. So here's the deal. This video that you're going to watch is going to be a composite of 4, including this one. That's sort of a step-by-step process in how I went about picking out herbs to plant in the chicken yard. I have 5 chickens. If you're new to my channel, then welcome. Hello. You have no idea what you're in for. But I live in South Texas, and I had my chickens originally free-ranging in my entire yard, and they were destroying all of the potted plants that I had. For whatever reason, we decided to not do a permanent garden, anything in the ground yet. That's something we're going to do in the spring. And so we finally decided, after much I don't know, agonizing and heartbreak, we decided to go ahead and give our chickens their own space, and then I could have my own space for my potted plants. However, I started to think about all of the benefits of herbs to chickens as far as having them nearby as mosquito repellent, as spider repellent. A lot of dried herbs are good to supplement in chicken food for different reasons. You can dry the leaves and put them in the nesting boxes for different reasons. Ooh, shaking off that water. So I started to think, why do I have all these pots outside the chicken zone when I could just plant all the herbs in with the chickens? So the first level was, well, I don't want to put these plants in the ground and then within a day my chickens completely eat it. So what I did is I started by putting herbs, sort of like this pot here. I had a pot of lavender, a pot of lemongrass, a pot of rosemary, a pot of peppermint, and a pot of sage. And I just put them here on the outside perimeter, basically to see, all right, let me leave this for a few days and see if the chickens eat them. All 5 birds had to go and test every single one at some point, and they all went, oh God, that's awful. And so after a few days, I came back and checked my plants, and they were all fine. They were all intact. Like, oh, okay, awesome. So they're not going to get eaten. And so then I started gradually picking out a couple of herbs, propagating a little bit, like you can see my little rosemary sprouts right in there, and kind of being like, okay, well, what if I plant this one in the ground? Are you going to eat it, or what are you going to do? So what the rest of what you're going to watch is sort of a step-by-step process. It's a mashup of a few different videos of me just step 1, leaving the herb inside to see if the chickens eat it or not. If they did consume it, then obviously I wasn't going to bother planting it in the ground. But if they didn't eat it, then I thought, well, hey, then let's put it in the ground. Just real quick, a little tour. So this is outside of their jurisdiction, if you will. Inside right now, and this is completed for all intents and purposes for the next good while, I have sage growing right there, a whole bunch of sage. In the corner over here, and I'm going to go in really briefly, I have peppermint. And if you're not familiar with my content, I do love plants. I love planting, I love digging in the dirt, I love just being outside, doing anything to help my birds. But I also kind of like misfit plants, like the really pathetic ones that are on clearance at Walmart. And so that's exactly what happened with that peppermint. Now peppermint, at least this variation, is not a very tall, strong growing, you know, stem wise. It's more like a vine, and of course it's getting trampled by my birds, but it's there. So I've got sage, I have peppermint, I've got more little rosemary sprouts over here. I'm trying to propagate it in 2 different ways. One like this in a pot, and then some other ones I was like, hey, you know what, whatever, and I just put some directly in the ground. My rosemary plant is just awesome. I've had it for a few years, and it doesn't freeze, it doesn't die in the freeze, like it's just unkillable. It's great. So I was like, you know what, let's just do a whole bunch more. This was a sad little basil that was on clearance at my grocery store, and as you can see, it's been in the ground for almost a week. But as you can see, like, somebody has been taking bites off of it, but then you see the pieces of it right here, because they all spit it out like, oh God, that tastes like, oh, gross. So everybody had to taste it, everybody had to be sure that they didn't like it, but I mean, that's perfectly fine. The only reason I put tomato cages around it is to keep the birds from scratching too close and ripping it up. Obviously, if a chicken wanted to peck at this, then they would. So that's the only point of the tomato cage there. So I introduced my rosemary already, so there's 3 little ones that are right there. That's the original rosemary. And see, in the pot, it's completely fine. And then that is 3 different sprigs of my lemongrass, and then I had even more of it that I'm giving to a friend. You can see other videos that have the grazing box, why we did a grazing box, how we did the grazing box, etc., etc. But this is just a quick video about testing out different herbs. The number one thing I would suggest before I end this and start adding the other content, the number one thing I would suggest is you want to look when you're thinking about planting herbs where your chickens can get to it. The number one thing is what's the benefit or what is the risk to your bird. If your bird accidentally eats something they're not supposed to, will it kill the bird? If that's the case, then to me no benefit could be worth it, right? Chickens usually do, if they're free-ranging birds, if they're used to being outside and being able to kind of, you know, forage and scratch around and things like that, they usually do have a pretty good intuition as far as, I have a feeling I shouldn't eat that. For example, did you know that chickens can eat tomatoes, but they cannot eat the tomato plant? Chickens can have avocado, but they can't eat the skin or the pit. Chickens can eat garlic. They cannot eat onions. Just like random little quirky things like that. And you would think that a chicken who's out here, they have pretty good ability to discern, hey, you know what, I think I probably shouldn't eat that. But the whole it's probably okay thing is not good enough for me. And hopefully it's not good enough for you either, because these are little lives that are dependent on you, and it's not a good idea to say, hey, let's put some poisonous stuff in there and see if they eat it. Hurt it, hurt it, hurt. So the number one thing would be to just check and see, is there any way that sage could kill my birds? No. Is there any way that peppermint could be toxic if my chickens eat it, or, you know, whatever? No. Okay. Then you can start to look at, well, are my chickens going to eat it? Because I didn't want to plant anything here if they were just going to eat it in one day. I would rather leave it in a pot up on my patio or something like that, to where I can just bring leaves to them or something like that, but I have control. So that's where I said I did the next step of just kind of leaving it just out of their reach, but they could peck at it a little bit, just to be sure before I spent the time to stick it in the ground. Now I know these little random bunches of herbs here look kind of ridiculous, but the goal is to eventually have like a little perimeter. It's also fall right now. It's October in South Texas, and we will get a freeze. The worst of our weather is usually January, February. So after it starts to warm up, I'd like to do another grazing box that's got wild garlic in it, or a couple of other things that, you know, if the chickens eat it, good. It's good for them, right? But then I can also come out and grab some if I want, you know, to make a, you know, like a different lasagna, or I'm going to make tea, or, you know, I'm going to make rosemary baked chicken or whatever. So that way everybody is happy and everybody gets some use out of the herbs. So I'm going to add some other videos to this video right here that's just going to show a step-by-step process if you're interested in seeing what I did. But essentially I took the herbs while they were still in the pot and brought them in here for a day or two as a test run to see if the chickens are going to eat them and destroy them. I don't like having pots in here because my chickens will randomly decide to jump in them and either lay eggs in there or dig around, and it just kills the plant. Not because they're eating it, but because they're digging around and just uprooting the plant. So hopefully this will be interesting. Let me know in the comments what herbs you like to give your chickens, what herbs you use with your chickens, what kind of stuff you have planted in the run with them. I would love to get hanging baskets. I would love to have some fruit trees in here, some bushes and shrubs, stuff like this that they can kind of forage in and feel like they're hiding. So we are very new to adding herbs and other foliage in here for them, but I'm really excited about the possibilities. So I hope this is helpful to you. Again, give me your ideas and suggestions in the comments. In today's experiment, get it, experiment. I bought some pathetic looking little peppermint plants at Walmart because I felt sorry for them, and that's what I do. I buy plants because I feel sorry for them. But look, I've got 2 peppermint plants. Just regular old spearmint. And my chickens have all tasted it, and they've all like, ew. So my old girls and the Easter eggers have all tried it. So my experiment, as I laugh again at my clever pun, so far has been successful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant it in the ground here in their zone, knowing that peppermint can be invasive, so I'm going to have to keep it in check. But I'm going to plant it in the ground near the coop because it's a great bug deterrent, and so it serves a purpose, not just, you know, adding some green over to the zone, but it's going to add a purpose, especially when it's warm, is that it'll be a deterrent for everything from spiders to flies to, you know, all kinds of bugs. What, Calypso? And I can plant it in their run because the chickens are not going to eat it and destroy it. My grazing box over there, look how green and pretty that is. Yay. So, woohoo! My chickens do not want, see, Lacey may try it again. My chickens do not like peppermint. All of those herbs that I've had over, like up against their fence for a week, they have not touched anything. And there is lemongrass in order closest to you. It's starting with lemongrass, sage, lavender, excuse me, rosemary, and then lavender. And my chickens do not want any of it. Now, I bet if I put those pots in there with my chickens, the chickens would hop into the pots and dig up the dirt, and then the plant may die because of that, but not because of being consumed. So I'm going to get some stuff and try to just have a little herb zone. I'm probably not even going to do like stones or anything around it yet. I'm just going to like dump it in the ground and see what happens. But there you go. My chickens will not eat peppermint. Thanks, girls. I mean, all I'm trying to do is plant some sage. Maybe Gracie thinks I'm trying to plant a chicken. Like literally in the time it took me to walk across the yard to go get that pot and come back, I've got 3 birds in the hole. Jeez. You see this? Rats. So again, the experiment is, I know that my birds won't eat these herbs, but I don't want to put them here in pots because then the herb will die, not because the birds are eating them, but because they'll dig in around in there in the dirt. They'll try to lay an egg in it. They'll think it's a dust bath even though they're way too big. It's kind of like, you know, the cat meme, like, if I fits, I sits. Like, they'll sit in it and they'll kill the plants because they're, I mean, look at them. Jeez. So I'm basically digging a hole the size of that pot, and I'm going to attempt to do this and just take all of the contents of that pot, the dirt and everything, and just bloop, drop all those sage plants into the ground and see what happens. The peppermint has been in the ground for a couple of days and it looks just fine. I mean, it adjusted really well. The chickens have completely ignored it. And this is also the first time I've planted something just in the ground with backyard chickens. And I thought maybe them seeing the dirt and that I dug around there recently, maybe they're gonna like just dig around in that area, not with the intent of, you know, exactly killing the plant, but just I'm gonna dig in that area and be interested, and they haven't. They've completely ignored it. So that's good. And I'm being eaten alive by mosquitoes. So just a quick to show you, like, this is the life. Like, if you don't have chickens yet, are you sure you want to deal with this? Like, are you sure? Eggs aren't that expensive. You could just buy them at the store. So the transport worked perfectly. I literally slid everything all together and just whoop, it went perfectly into the hole. And now I've got quality control over here, inspecting my work. Look how cute. So actually having greenery like taller than they are, or, you know, their height, not just, you know, short grass. Don't you kill my sage, please. So we've got the peppermint, and I know it will spread. That's something that we're willing to deal with. We have ideas for months and months from now if that happens, because honestly, before we have to worry about any of this spreading, we have to worry about if it's going to make it through the winter. This peppermint plant has made it through a few freezes, but in a pot where I was able to, you know, keep an eye on it. So we'll just see. Oh, is she going to eat a little bit of it? Oh, nope. She's like, oh, gross. So I'm going to give this a deep watering right now. And again, if it dies, all of that was from one packet of seeds that was like $2. So, but if it lives, think of the possibilities. And now there's a little bit of greenery here. I can come out and grab some whenever I want to. Again, this is sage and this is peppermint. Any variation of mint is safe for chickens. Again, some people say their birds will eat it, some people say they won't, but what's for sure is that it is safe. It's not toxic to them or anything like that. Some other stuff you do have to be careful with. My lemongrass I brought in just to see. It's got a tomato cage around it, so they can't really get in the pot. But that I'm going to split, and I'm going to plant just along the inside barrier, almost like a little privacy looking thing. So just to have some greenery, some variation. All of these are also good for the birds in multiple ways. You can dry and crush the leaves and put it in their nesting boxes. You can put it in their food and see if you can get them to eat it. As well as these are all just natural spider deterrents, fly deterrents, mosquito deterrents, especially you know, when they're a little bit more aromatic as I get eaten alive. Let's look at this. Look at my legs. I don't know if you can tell, but I've literally got at least 50 bites on my 2 legs. Ah, you see them flying around me. Help! So this is just a little experiment. Again, it didn't really cost me hardly any money. Like, obviously I'm not using the sage, and I am giving it away to people and everything. I'm just not using it as fast as it's growing. Same thing with my rosemary. I may try to split that and see if I can plant some of that over here. But just some greenery. Like, look how excited they are. Yay. So the herb experiment continues. So I'm going to water this. You know, if they dig it up and they kill it, then oh well, because I'm not going to come out and babysit it. But I was sick of having all these little random pots when they're... I'm going to go yell at a bird. I didn't want to have all these random pots when there might be some benefit to my birds. So we'll see what happens.